Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful, for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Good. So Taylor Hall isn't an Edmonton Oiler, but the Edmonton Oilers broke their 4-game losing streak with a absolutely nail-biting 2-1 win over the Dallas Stars. A really, really tough hockey team to beat.
Yeah.
They were buzzing like hornets all night long trying to get that goal. They got down 2-0. And they were just kept coming and coming and coming, played really hard physical hockey. But the Oilers met them. They met them almost at every turn until the last 2 minutes when there was a number of breakdowns, kind of scary breakdowns that we're going to get into. So, Bruce, this is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. We'll go with 2 good things each, though, because it was such a fantastic game. What's your first good thing?
My first good thing is the Oilers actually jumping out in front and scoring 2 goals in the first period that happened to be just barely enough. It was the same formula as their last win against LA Kings when they scored 2 power play goals in the first period. And they nursed a 2-0 lead late, and then they gave one up, and then they hung on for dear life down the stretch. And this was almost identical to that, other than this was the Dallas Stars, not the LA Kings. And they can really bring the heat, as you pointed out, with a couple of wonderful point men and John Klingberg and Miro Heiskanen. And I noticed your
fantastic.
Man, Jamie Oleksiak, that you were talking of years ago, and there he is on the ice 6-on-5 as the game winds down, and he was dangerous. He was involved in that game in all aspects. So,
Bruce, I was finally vindicated.
To an old David Staples favorite. I know you took a lot of grief.
I took a lot of grief, and justifiably so. It was one of those learning lessons where I'd only seen him play. I'd only seen Oleksiak play a handful of games in the AHL, but he looked fantastic as a 20-year-old in the AHL. Mm-hmm. And I suggested a trade, which was probably not. It was dumping Sam Gagner's horrible contract, but also trading the pick that turned out to be Darnell Nurse. So Jamie Oleksiak hasn't outperformed Darnell Nurse in his career, but I'll tell you what, Jamie Oleksiak looked fantastic that game. That's the player that I thought he could be in the NHL tonight. That's the player that I thought there he is. There's that guy. Finally.
Anyway, back to the Oilers' goals. Not only they scored 2 goals in the first period, they scored 2 beautiful goals in the first period. 2 gorgeous passing plays, 4-way passing plays in each case. One at even strength, one on the power play. And the one on even strength, it started with a gorgeous stretch pass by Ethan Bear to Joachim Nygard at the far blue line. And Nygard took it in, and he semi-won, or at least he fought even in a battle until Kassian and McDavid came in to help him out and establish possession. And once those guys got it, they worked it back to the point. Bear whipped it over to Nurse on the other point, and Nurse, I love the play Nurse made. He just held the puck for an extra split second, waited for the passing lane to open up, and slipped a gorgeous cross-ice seam pass to McDavid. And then McDavid did the McDavid thing and made the goalie think he was going to shoot, and he pulled it across then to Kassian, and he basically had the wide open net from about 15 feet out and made no mistake. But to me, honestly, the key pass in that sequence was Darnell Nurse, who, for all of the criticism he gets for being a poor passer, sure seems to come up with some pretty sweet passes from time to time. That was one of them.
That was a really nice play all around. Yeah, super play.
And then the second goal on the power play, and they got the power play, and of course we got Kevin Quinn talking about how the Oilers are 32.8% now, and they're raving about the power play, and I'm going, okay, here's the kiss of death again. And that's about as long as he had to talk about it. Was about as long as it took him to put the puck in the net. And again, beautiful 4-way passing play coming. Well, from the one face-off to get the puck back to the point safely, Draisaitl to Nuge to Klefbom, and then Klefbom and McDavid played give and go a couple times. And then McDavid went straight into the edge of the crease where Alex Chiasson had set up shop. And Chiasson just pulled a no-look, obviously a set play, pulled a no-look pass between his legs and right onto the tape of Draisaitl on the far side, and wham, into the net. Beautiful goal. Like, he really couldn't execute it much better than that, other than Ben Bishop didn't like the fact that Chiasson had one foot in the blue paint, but hey, too bad.
Yeah,
I'm
you know,
surprised, a little surprised they didn't challenge it, but they didn't.
Kevin Quinn's other favorite kiss of death is the when the Oilers have scored the first goal in a game, they are 14, like, I went up 14 wins, 5 losses, whatever it is. And I just think, like, it's just kind of, there's 3 or 4 of them that he keeps bringing up. And I just think, and I know you shouldn't be superstitious, right? His job is just to state the facts. That's just a simple fact. But as a fan, it feels like, oh, you are totally jinxing us, buddy. Okay, Bruce, my good thing. My first good thing is, well, it's the Tower of Power. I'll go with Adam Larsson on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, when Adam Larsson has not been bringing his A game in the last while, but in these since he's come back for injury, he has slowly worked his way up, and he's starting to look like the Oilers' best defenseman in the last few games. And tonight especially, he played a flawless defensive game. Pretty much. I don't know if we tagged them for any mistakes. The Oilers had 5 grade A chances to 11 for Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we tagged Larsson on any making mistakes on any of them, which is pretty outstanding for a defenseman. He's just so, it's nice to be reminded of what he actually brings to the game when he's playing his best, because he makes smart plays with the puck. He is fundamentally sound on defense, and he's vicious. So those 3 things make for an outstanding NHL defenseman. And, we haven't been saying that. I haven't been saying that about Larsson. In fact, a month ago, I was criticizing him for being a statue and not moving his feet,
yes.
which was exactly the case.
It's not even a month ago, but he's found his game, I would say, even in the last week. But he's played 3 or 4 real good games in a row now. I thought he was excellent. I was sitting behind the Oilers net last game and for 2 periods, and Larsson caught my eye for just having a real solid game throughout. And more of the same tonight. Man, he finishes his checks, doesn't he? And he'll take his guy all the way to the boards, and he doesn't stop when he gets there either.
Hopefully he can keep playing. I think the key for him is to be healthy, which is hard when you play as hard as he does. That Jason Smith game has been a comparison in the past. And when you're playing that tough, you're going to get banged up and bruised, and that's what happens to him. He's got a bad back, but that's just fantastic to see. And, it's interesting because, my hope has always been the Oilers. We always knew New Jersey was likely to get a win out of the Taylor Hall trade. And I think overall they did. They got an MVP season out of him and 2 kind of injury full seasons, and then a third of a season, and they got a fairly okay-ish return in a trade for him. But, the Oilers can still get a win out of this deal, Bruce. It's still not too late. They got a win in 2016-17 when Adam Larsson was one of the key players and leading them in the playoffs. And if Adam Larsson does that again this year, and then he's got another year on his deal, suddenly that hasn't happened yet, though. But if that were to happen,
you
have to reevaluate the whole trade, which Chiarelli's been dragged through the mud for years, except for that first year. And it's too early to say that this is what's going to happen. But there's a possibility that the Oilers really could get an overall win. And that's not taking away that New Jersey did have that one fantastic season out of Hall. But if we can get 2 good seasons out of Hall, maybe 3 or out of Larsson, that'll work. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, well, 3 games in a row is a good start, but it's a long way to go. But he just looks like a totally different man than he did like even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
he looks confident. He looks strong. He looks energetic, moving his feet, as you say, and he's just starting to take command out there, like the big, experienced veteran defenseman that he is. And when I say veteran, he's still 27 years old now?
Yeah.
I think he just turned 27.
Same age as Nuge, right?
Same draft as Nuge, and he's a few months older. Anyway, he should really be at somewhere near the peak of his career now.
He should be right now at the peak, right? This is it. So it's good to see it.
So yeah, I love it, and I love it. The old goalie in me, I love that style of player. that'll challenge the guy with the puck, get a stick on the puck, but also take a big piece of the guy and take him down from time to time, and sometimes rack up a few penalties, cost of doing business. But that then as a goalie, your job is to make the save and bail him out,
I love
right?
those D-men who tough in front of the net. And
yeah, me too.
I've been talking about this audiobook I'm listening to, Ken Dryden's book on Scotty Bowman, and there's a large section there on Doug Harvey. And the interesting thing about Doug Harvey is apparently Ken Dryden says he didn't go in the corners. When he was out there, it was Dollard Saint Laurent who would go in either corner, and Harvey would stand in front of the net because his philosophy was they can't score from the corner. They're going to have to come to the net, front of the net sooner or later. And when they do, here I am. And he was apparently a master of shutting them down there. And this is, I think, the Chris Russell game, tough in front of the net, and it's the Larson game when they're both at the top of their games. And Russell defensively has been more on top of his game than Larson has been for the last few years. But good to see Larson come on. What is your other good thing, Bruce?
Not that either of them will ever be mistaken for the great Doug Harvey.
Not that,
to be honest, but I mean, but any kind of comparison to that style of game, because Harvey was ahead of his time and an absolutely. I could spend a whole podcast talking about Doug Harvey, but we will talk about my other good thing, which is Mikko Koskinen, and how he had his teammates' backs, and especially in the biggest moments in the dying couple minutes of the game, when. It was all hands on deck for the Stars, and all of a sudden the Oilers, who'd been in command for about 40 minutes, really, keeping things clean, simple, moving the puck out of their own end, getting it deep, keeping it deep. All of a sudden they couldn't seem to make a play to get the darn thing over their own blue line. And Dallas got one, of course, with the 6-on-5, and there was still a lot of time on the clock. And Koskinen stood tall, and he needed to be tall. Two tallest goalies in the NHL going tonight, the two 2-meter men, Ben Bishop and Mikko Koskinen. And Koskinen needed every centimeter of his 200 centimeters to get the tip of his blocker on the shot that Corey Perry got off the rebound off the end boards with 19 seconds to go in the third period. If Corey Perry, of all people, scores there, I'm not sure what I would have done, but it wouldn't have been good.
Koskinen, Bruce. Koskinen's been good in about 4 out of 5 games this year that he's played, maybe even 5 out of 6. He's been fantastic. Overall this year, he's been one of the Oilers' 3 stars of the year, probably, or in the top 4 players. And tonight was another example of that. I just had a feeling he was going to have a good game, and you never know, things can happen. But he really did. He was just fantastic.
This was a save that belongs on the highlight reels just by virtue of how good of a save it was. But when you put that on top of the situation of when the save was made, 20 seconds left, preserving a 1-goal lead against a chaos situation. I mean, the man was gasping for breath by the end of the game. It was like 2 minutes of nonstop action, and you don't think a goalie's getting tired, but I mean, that's a long friggin' shift. And, and the puck didn't get out at Edmonton's end often or for very long. And it was just flying around. I mean, the Stars had it on a string. They had those point men. They had the puck zipping around. They have, Pavelski. They got Radulov, Sagan, Ben. I mean, those guys can play. And they had the puck. And poor old Koskinen just, and he was bent over double when the siren went off. But with a W in his pocket, and hats off to him. He played great.
That 6-on-5 from the Stars were so good, so dominant that the Oilers didn't even have a chance to blow an empty net chance, Bruce. That's how good the Dallas was out there. So I'm going to go to my second good thing and then segue right away into the bad thing, because so the good thing, I think, was just the defensive play in the slot. And Dallas did have a lot of chances, but not a ton of really open looks from the slot area where certain centers named Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Connor McDavid in the last month have been frankly atrocious. covering in the slot area. Their game has fallen apart defensively. But tonight it looked like everyone had it going, and I liked going into the game the fact that they put all three at center, put them at center, tell them that's your job, and so do your job in the defensive zone. Don't get confused. Don't get thinking you're a wing and you got to break out on the attack. When the puck's in front of your net, you take somebody, you cover someone, you help out those defensemen and help out the goalie in front of your net. And they did it all night long. Not just them, of course. Gaetan Haas was fantastic. That line was fantastic. I know Nugent's line wasn't fantastic, but I thought Ryan Nugent-Hopkins actually did a good job covering in the slot, generally speaking. So there wasn't as many of those, 30 to 50% scoring chance shots. There was lots of 20, 25% scoring chance shots, but there was only a few that were in the 30 to 50 range, like Corey Perry's one right at the end there, and the goal that was scored, and maybe one or two others. So that's what the goalie needs. He needs half a chance. He needs, if Koskinen's facing those 25% grade A chances, he's going to stop almost all of them, because that's how he's playing right now. So the defensive play in the slot from the centers was outstanding until, and now I segue into my bad thing, the last 2 minutes of the game. And all due respect to Dave Tippett, who's obviously a really great coach, I don't know why you're putting McDavid in that line out there. That line has been so weak defensively in the last month. Why are you putting them out there in the last 2 minutes of the game? And what happens? Almost immediately, they get scored on. McDavid's puck watching. I thought Draisaitl could have been down the boards further helping out. And McDavid is puck watching, and then it's a 2-on-1 down low, and they score. And then they're out there again. McDavid's out there again. That's his man, Corey Perry. He was the last man back there. And what is he doing? He's watching. He's puck watching, because this is what Connor McDavid does. And it works. Whatever he does, it works really, really well. But it doesn't always work on defense right now. And if Corey Perry had scored, that he would have been responsible for the last two goals in the last 2 minutes. That's how close he came to being the GOAT this game. So I don't think he should. Honestly,
here's the first.
You got lots of players to put out there. You got lots of players to put out there in that moment. I wouldn't put them out there together, McDavid and Draisaitl.
Together is a bit of a thing, yeah.
So anyway, that's my bad thing.
I remember, it was like just under 3 minutes left, and Dallas came out of their own end, and Kevin Quinn says, "Now here's McDavid with Draisaitl for the first time all night." And I just said to my wife, "Why? Why change now?" And it wasn't 15 seconds later, the puck was in the freaking net, and
they were right in the middle of it.
Oh man! Well, I mean, McDavid, like you say, I mean, he kind of floated over to the left wing, the offensive left wing boards. And then when the puck got dug out of the boards, instead of hustling back to the net front, he kind of pulled up and watched as Seguin tried to make a pass across. And Nurse tried to make the hero play and block the pass, and he got a bad bounce and went right back to Seguin. Well, if McDavid had been moving his feet, he would have been on Seguin by then. Instead, he's still 5 feet away watching, while Seguin shooting the puck in the net. And that's just poor defense. I mean, McDavid had a very fine game tonight, but that wasn't a fine moment.
He was fantastic all night long, actually. I just thought he was flying out there. He was making great plays. He led his line better than any other player led his line. He set up Kassian. He set up Chiasson and then Draisaitl scored. I mean, he was crucial on the 2 goals. He was flying. He was playing great hockey. He was playing strong defensive hockey when he was the lone center on his line, even, because he gets the puck and he advances it, right? So he's not really used to that kind of defensive structure, where he is like another defenseman taking someone in the slot. I just don't think he's experienced at it. And he probably didn't spend a lot of time doing that in minor hockey. I'm guessing he was in the offensive end the whole time. So it's not a strength. Why are you putting a player out there, coach, where that's not his strength? So I would really ask Tippett, why are you doing that?
You want your best players on the ice at the end, but maybe you want your best defensive players on the ice at the end. And it's not like those guys are going out there and just filling the empty net, because the Oilers, I don't understand it, David. They pull their goalie and the other team just grabs the puck and scores right away. The other team pulls their goalie and it's frickin' hang on Harvey for 2 or 3 or 25 minutes while we just sort of almost close our eyes and
Well, maybe we're
and
sending the
and
wrong players out
yeah.
there almost every single time. How about that? And we have been for a while. Like, let's get let's get the penalty killers, whoever they are, put them up. Like, put five defensemen out there
Josh
for us.
Archibald that made the key defensive play in the last
You
second.
know, Sheahan, Archibald,
Mm,
and not
yeah.
Ginger Kara, but Sheahan and Archibald, and even or and Drysdale. Like, I don't mind one of those guys part of the crew, but they just seem to when they get together, they start to. It's like they're thinking, okay, let's go score, and that's the wrong thought at that moment. Bruce, what is your number?
Okay.
Or
Well,
did you do your bad thing? Just wait.
I didn't do my bad thing, and it's kind of a bad thing and a number because the number is so amazing that it made it my bad thing.
All right. Okay.
And this is a well, no, this is my bad thing. The flow of play against the Nugent Hopkins Kara Chase online. And I'll start with the extreme example of Jujhar Khaira, who, when he was on the ice in 10 minutes and 46 seconds, shot attempts were 1 for Edmonton and 23 for Dallas. 23 to 1. And I would say that part of that is on Mr. Khaira himself for his
Jesus, is it ever?
hopeless puck clearing. he, he gets the puck inside his own blue line and he just stands and he waits for someone to come and take it off him. It seems like do something, like at least get it over the line and then make your decision. And he was just too slow making decisions. And the same thing happened at the other blue line where somebody got him the puck and he was wide open and he just froze with it. And then some star came and a jailbreak was on. And I just I don't get it. I mean, the guy has just been so erratic this year. He's had some outstanding games, and then the rest of the time, you just kind of wonder what's going on. I mean, his confidence must change with the wind. I don't know what it is, but
Well, it's
he
his
was.
Bruce. It's his effort level that he's not consistent with. Because when he's another one when he's moving his feet,
Mhm.
he plays well. And if when he's moving his feet, and then he's also playing physical. Tonight there was moments where I thought, okay, why don't you at least hit that guy, and you do something, but he didn't. So Jujhar Khaira has got to get in his head. I'm going to move my feet and I'm going to hit someone. And if he does those two things, then the other things, everything else is going to happen for him. It all comes together. But it's when he starts to think, well, I'm going to make plays and do this and complicate things. Like he can't play a complicated game. And yeah, that I don't know. He was just there was
Anyway,
lots of
it's
frustration on Twitter about him. I know, but
for
stuff
him
to the
for
game.
Nuge. It was 3-4-22 against. For Jason, it was 1-4-19 against. I mean, the line just got
Ow.
caved. They just got caved. And Anuj and especially Chason had their moments on special teams. And Kara had an all right shift on one of the penalty kills.
Yeah.
But they, as a line, they just didn't gel at all.
He seems to be fairly solid in the PK actually because it's more
Hmm.
structured
Hmm.
and he knows what he's supposed to do. It's a simple task. It's not a lot. You just do it, and he seems to be okay. Like he's not like Cassian last year or the last few years who was just getting eaten alive on the PK. So you got to give him credit, but
Hmm.
man, at even strength, I think he's earned a press box spot, and Patrick Russell should try that line with Patrick Russell and see if it works any better because it might.
Hmm.
Um, can't be any worse. My number, Bruce, is 5, which was the number of major mistakes on grade A scoring chances against the Jujhar Khaira made that game.
Oh,
So 2 of them were at shorthanded. Um,
okay.
but 5 for a forward is atrocious. That's kind of like a month's worth, kind of.
When you're generating nothing at the other end,
Yeah, like he
it's a
just.
real double whammy.
Yeah, so the Oilers have a lot of these forwards who are kind of similar. They're hardworking guys, and generally speaking. So, and Kara, when he's working hard, he can play in the NHL, I believe. But how many years have we been watching this player? And the
You'd like
effort
to.
still isn't consistent. And he's got to get it in his head. He could make Jujhar Khaira could still make $10 to $20 million as an NHL hockey player if he just gets it in his head. You just think of that before every game. If I move my feet as fast as I can and I hit every chance I get, I can make $20 million in the next 6 or 7 or 8 years. Maybe that's a little bit much, but if he scores 12 to 15 goals, which he's
Hmm.
capable of doing, and he kills penalties, yeah, he
Hmm.
could make that amount of money. So that's what he's got to tell himself.
Yeah, well, he's had trouble. Like for some time, I've praised his ability to win the battles and hold the puck in the offensive zone. But some of the decisions he makes and just the time it takes him to make them in the defensive zone, that's been a problem for a long time, like turnovers behind his own blue line. And when you have forwards turning the puck over in your own end of the ice, bad things tend to happen thereafter. And
Yes. There
yeah,
was one
anyway.
4-on-4 situation where he got the puck and he was
Hmm.
wide open in the middle of the Oilers defensive zone and he just kind of stood there.
Yes.
And suddenly it turned in from a moment of advantage where you have possession 4-on-4 and you should do something. 4-on-4, don't put out Jujhar Khaira. That's what I'm saying
All of
from
a
now
sudden,
on.
they're
But they
chasing the
were
puck
they
in their
were
own end
yeah,
again.
they started to get cycled against because he didn't really know what to do in that
Yeah,
moment.
his,
So
his decision making tonight was could be measured in geological time. Oh man.
do you have a other number as
Yeah,
well?
I have
Or?
I have a number, and this is a variation of one I gave last week, but it's so much more exceptional. I'm going to do it again. 39, and that's the number of total face-offs in this game. 39 face-offs. So it's 36 whistles, because of course every period starts with a face-off and it doesn't end with a whistle. So 36 whistles in 60 minutes of hockey, and it was just go, 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 go. There was and not necessarily lots of scoring chance action, but lots of action. The puck was on the move all the time. It was being battled for, in all areas of the ice. And I mean, at times there was, I think, at least three extended battles of 15 or more seconds where the thing was frozen along the wall and both teams were just bashing away at the puck and each other for that extended period. But it really was a flow kind of game. When they dropped the puck and they played hockey, and away they went for minutes on end, and I love to watch that.
So Bruce, the Oilers now have 42 points in 36 games. They have 19 wins and 17 losses. So they're
Hmm.
2 games above real 500. And my theory always is if you're a real 500 team that you'll make the playoffs, generally speaking, almost every year in the NHL. So that's the goal. 19 and 17. That was a huge game tonight because it kept
Huge.
them 2 games above real 500. And so they're tied for sixth overall in the NHL, but
Oh,
there's 6 teams tied for
just a big
sixth.
pack there.
Oh, that's just
Six
way to
teams
success.
tied for sixth. Wow.
16 tied, and then Vegas
Huh.
is just 1 point behind them, and Calgary's 1 point behind them, and yeah, there's this huge. But then there's a bit of a gap after that. Yeah,
They
Vancouver's a bit of a gap after that. So
they absolutely had to stop the bleeding. They had to stop the bleeding. This is actually the same city. They won a huge game in the 2016-17 season in Dallas, a little bit earlier in the season. That was the year they started off 9-3-1, and then all of a sudden they went on a tank and they lost five straight in regulation, and they dropped to 9-8-1, and they were going, oh no, here come the Oilers, and they went into Dallas, who was pretty hot at the time, and you're thinking, uh-oh. And they put that time Connor McDavid on a line with Jesse Puljujarvi. And I think it was the first time they played together. Puljujarvi
hmm
was a rookie that year. And McDavid got, I believe it was his first career hat trick in Dallas. And the Oilers won 5-2. And that basically staunched the bleeding of a 5-game losing streak that time, a 4-game losing streak this time. So let's hope it's the beginning of something bigger and better ahead. And even that time, it wasn't like they just completely turned it around, but they stopped the slide. And then they started to, regain some traction, and then they took off a little bit later than that. But this was a big win in the picture, at least in the snapshot of this moment. This win looks really big.
yeah, I like this team, and it's gratifying to see them bring their A game and play their A game, which
For
is
7 minutes.
which needs to be yeah, which needs to be based on really hard work on defense and smart play on defense. They're the only team in the top 14 teams in the NHL right now that's giving up more than 3 goals a game. They're
Yeah.
at 303. So in the last month, they've just had a terrible time on defense. They finally showed tonight a signal that maybe they're taking this seriously and they're going to start covering that defensive slot again. They were packing it into the slot and taking care. So big win tonight, Bruce. Really
Hmm.
big. What's their next game?
Yeah. Oh, they're in St. Louis against the Stanley Cup champion. So out of the frying pan to the fire, that's 2 more nights from now on the 18th. What's that, Wednesday night? So that's But already, I mean, just by winning one of the two games on the road trip, I mean, that was sort of the minimum they had to come home with at least 2 points. And ideally, anything you get in St. Louis is a bonus. So, did you want to talk about the Hull trade any further, or you said what?
Well, I could say one thing about it. I
Yeah.
kind of looked at it like so. I was trying to think like a comparable package from the Oilers. What would it have been, and
Okay.
would we have gone for that or not? So what I came up
Yeah.
with, there's a defenseman called Ball who went to like listen. Hardly anyone's heard of these players that went from Arizona to
They're prospects, but I
well,
think
Merkley.
they're off the B roll of prospects, aren't they?
So
By and large.
yeah, definitely. Merkley's kind of the equivalent of Cooper Marody right now.
Mhm.
Nick Merkley. He's 22. He's got like 16 points, 3 goals in 26 games in the AHL. So he's kind of the equivalent of Marody, kind of a good offensive player at the AHL, or I know, an okay to good offensive player at the AHL level this year. But he's never really panned out, Nick
He's
Merkley.
not that younger guy.
He's 22. And so the defenseman is a 6'7" OHL defenseman. I was kind of thinking his comparable would be Dmitry Samarukov on the Oilers. So, and then there was another forward, a lesser forward, OHL forward, and I thought Kirill Maximov was probably a fairly good comp. So if the Oilers were to make that a similar kind of package, it would have been Samarukov, Marody, Kirill Maximov, conditional third round pick, and a top 3 lottery protected first round pick, which is actually pretty significant because if you don't make the playoffs and you're like the 14th overall team, the 14th pick that's not a killer to lose, but it's a killer if you win the
If you win the
lottery and lose.
lottery and you don't, and you're
So
for the
Arizona
pick.
or the Oilers might not win the lottery this year, but they're probably not going to like crash to the bottom of the league standings. That would be highly unusual.
Yeah.
So um, I don't. I'm kind of on the fence, Bruce, about
Yeah.
the whole thing. Whether I would make that trade of all that stuff to get Taylor Hall for as a rental. I'm kind of. If they had done it, I wouldn't have complained. If they didn't do it, I'm not going to complain. But if I'm completely honest, what I didn't want to see, and what I really don't, is Taylor Hall in Edmonton on a long-term contract, and that's going to really upset a certain percentage, 20% of Oiler fans to hear that. But I just don't see him as a good bet because of his injury history, because he's a speed player, and speed players, like all players, tend to start to decline in their 30s. I don't see Taylor Hall as a great bet for the amount of money he's going to be getting over 6 or 7 years. Probably his deal is going to be like 9 million, 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what I'm hoping for the Oilers. I don't think it's the right move for the Oilers, and I think it's much less likely to happen now. What's your thought?
Yeah, well, uh, yeah, it's an interesting package that they gave up. I mean, you can say that New Jersey gave up one asset to get Hall, and they got five in return for him, and you'd be right. But you'd also be right if you said they gave up one NHLer to get Hall, and they received none to this moment in time
Good
in the
framing.
five person package. I mean, obviously the two draft picks, especially the first rounder, has got a decent chance. But I mean, Kevin Ball is like second round pick, 55th overall. In 2018, I guess he's tracking well, but he's not exactly what you call a sure thing.
No,
And
he's like
Merkley,
Samorukov, right?
I mean, Merkley played with Draisaitl in junior, right? Like he's not a kid. Like he's not
No.
like a 21-year-old in the AHL. And the third fellow, I haven't looked him up yet, but he was sort of a new name, and I don't think he was high on their prospect list.
Third
And then
round
it's the
pick.
draft picks. And then, I mean, and then bear in mind that New Jersey ate half of Hull's cap so that Arizona could fit him in. So from Arizona's perspective, I mean, in the short term, they kept their entire team and they added Taylor Hall. I mean, that's a fantastic trade in terms of their immediate prospects for 2019-20. And in the case of Arizona, to me, Hall comes in and he immediately becomes their offensive catalyst. Uh, him and Phil Kessel would be certainly their two most accomplished offensive players. And if Edmonton went out and got that guy, he would not come in and immediately be their, number one offensive catalyst. It's just, it's just the way it is. I mean, Edmonton does need help on two left wing, but Taylor Hall really is a one left wing. And how good does that fit? I don't know. I mean, in 15-16, when he and McDavid were together, when McDavid was out, Hall piled up a lot of points, and then when McDavid came back, Hall kind of went a little bit quiet down the stretch. And I mean, the team was out of contention, and there was other factors at play. But I think in Arizona, where they're really going to give him a chance to be the top dog, top desert dog, uh, he uh, he might really jump on that bone and uh, make a meal of it. So it'll be fun and exciting to watch him in the Pacific Division, and he could be a game changer. But it would be a different game that he'd be trying to change in Edmonton. I'm not sure the fit was ever there.
I like the idea of Hall and Draisaitl together again. They were fantastic, I thought, that year, and could be again. So yeah, I was okay kind of with Hall as a rental, and I don't think Arizona paid in the end a killer price for Hall as a rental, as you say, not one NHLer, and there may never be. So and it would be if if the rumor of the Oilers, or this maybe it was just fans concocting this, but like Caleb Jones, Jesse Puljujarvi, and a second round pick, I would have taken that personally, because I think a lot of Caleb Jones. I think he's not playing his A game yet in Edmonton. He's kind of playing his B or C game. He's finding his way around with this new coaching staff. He hasn't reached the level he played last year, but I like Caleb Jones, and I think an NHL player right now. Jesse Puljujarvi, I think, could be an NHL player right now, and apparently had a hell of a game for Finland against Sweden. And yeah, I would have taken that if that was the offer. I don't know if it was, if they offer both those pieces and a second for Hall. But I don't watch these prospects. That so I can't really say. I can't really compare the two packages. Alrighty.
Yeah, it is pretty hard to do for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first round pick was a key part of it. And there's the third rounder in 2021. It could get upgraded to a second or even a first if certain things happen. If Arizona makes the playoffs and wins a round and re-signs Hall, then it gets bumped all the way up to a first round pick.
Arizona kept hold of its top two prospects.
Yep.
Hayton and Soderstrom. I mean, Hayton's kind of on the Coyotes, right? He's playing for Team Canada though.
Yep.
But they kept hold of those two guys. I don't.
On Team Sweden, yeah.
So did Vegas. Vegas didn't. They kept hold of Glass, therefore, but they had to give up Brandstrom, who might have been their second top prospect. I'm not exactly sure about that, but he was, I think, higher rated than anyone that went over to New Jersey today. Brandstrom went to Ottawa in the Mark Stone trade. So we'll see what happens.
Phoenix picked up a prospect from New Jersey as well. But I have an idea that was a contract dump of the type of guy that we got back for Nail Yakupov that one time. Just to make the number of contracts fit. I didn't recognize the name at all. And I was out at the time. I haven't really had a chance to look at all the names involved in the trade in any sort of detail, because, of course, the Oilers were playing, and that's my number one.
50,000 bonus points, Bruce, if you can name that guy that came over in the Yakupov trade.
Oh, man, I had it for so long. I remembered his name. He was on the 50-man list, so I had him, but he slipped away.
Was he a forward?
He slipped away. Well, he was a non-entity. You're going to make me look it up. I should remember it, but I don't. Yakupov, are you, Niall? There you are. Find him. Show trades. Zach Pachiro.
Zach Pachiro.
Zach Pachiro, who's played in his career 5 AHL games and about 200 in the ECHL. So that kind of tells you what kind of player he is.
Sounds like a Jedi Knight name. All right, Bruce, let's leave it there. Thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.